The first time Captain Vrel Dinara of the Galactic Confederation encountered humans, he dismissed them as primitives. Their vessels were bulky, inelegant things cobbled together from disparate technologies, their weaponry crude by Confederation standards, and their communication methods almost laughably simplistic. In the vast tapestry of spacefaring civilizations, humans were newcomers, barely 2 centuries into faster-than-light travel, while most species measured their cosmic presence in millennia. Unimpressive specimens, he had noted in his first contact report. Technologically backward, physically unremarkable, and diplomatically naive. That was before Proxima Centauri, before everything changed. The mining colony on Proxima Centauri IV had gone dark 3 rotation cycles ago. Standard procedure dictated a small investigative force, which is precisely what Dinara dispatched. 3 light cruisers, the finest ships in his fleet, crewed by veterans with centuries of experience among them. None returned. The silence that followed was deafening. The Confederation Council, in their infinite wisdom, decided that whatever threat had neutralized those ships warranted a more substantial response. They sent Dinara with a battle group, 15 more ships, including his flagship, the Radiant Descent. Standing on the command deck now, blue skin ashen under the harsh lights, Dinara stared at the holographic display, showing the scattered debris of what had once been a thriving colony. Mining facilities reduced to twisted metal, habitation domes cracked open like eggs. The defense grid, one of the most sophisticated in this sector, completely offline. Life signs, he asked, already knowing the answer. His second-in-command, Celia, shook her head. None, Captain. But we're detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the wreckage. Nothing in our database matches the pattern. Dinara suppressed a shudder. The Confederation's technological databases spanned millions of years and thousands of species. For something to be completely unknown was troubling. Magnify Sector 7, he ordered, gesturing to a relatively intact section of the colony. The hologram zoomed in, revealing strange markings etched into the metal of the main administrative building. They appeared almost like glyphs, but with a disturbing organic quality, as if they had been grown rather than carved. Those weren't there in our last surveillance pass, Zelier said, mandibles clicking with anxiety. They appeared within the last 20 standard hours. Before Dinara could respond, the communications officer called out, "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's from the colony. Impossible." The scan showed no survivors. "Put it through," Dinara ordered, straightening his uniform. The main view screen flickered, and then resolved into an image that caused several crew members to gasp. A human stood before them, or what had once been human. The creature's skin had a metallic sheen, with circuitry visible beneath translucent flesh. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural blue light, and when it moved, it did so with an unsettling fluidity. "Greetings, Captain Dinara," it said, its voice resonating with harmonics that made Dinara's inner ear throb painfully. "We've been expecting you." "Identify yourself," Dinara demanded, fighting to keep his voice steady. The thing smiled, an expression made horrific by the too wide stretch of its lips. "I am Administrator Chen, or I was. Now, I am much more. We all are. What happened here? Where are the colonists?" "The colonists." The thing tilted its head at an impossible angle. "They haven't gone anywhere, Captain. They've simply evolved." Dinara felt cold dreadpool in his stomach. Evolved. Perhaps that's not the right word. Transcended. Ascended. Your language lacks the proper terminology. The creature gestured, and the camera panned to show what appeared to be a manufacturing facility. Rows upon rows of conversion chambers lined the walls, each containing a writhing form undergoing some grotesque transformation. "What have you done?" Dinara whispered. "We've merged with our technology, Captain. Humanity has always dreamed of this, the perfect synthesis of organic and machine. When we discovered the artifact in the deep mines, we realized its potential immediately. The Confederation had classified it as nothing more than an interesting mineral formation, but we recognized it for what it truly was: a doorway. A doorway to what? The thing's smile widened further. To our future, to what humanity was always meant to become. Dinara signaled Celier with a subtle hand gesture. Prepare weapons, ready for immediate retreat. But the creature noticed. That won't be necessary, Captain. We mean you no harm. In fact, we want to share our gift with the Confederation. A warning klaxon suddenly blared through the bridge. Captain, the tactical officer shouted. Multiple hull breaches. Something's cutting through our outer defenses. On the view screen, the creature that had been Administrator Chen looked almost sympathetic. Your ships that came before, they resisted. We hope you'll be more reasonable. Dinara barked orders for emergency protocols, but reports of intrusions were coming in from all decks. The battle group's ships were reporting similar breaches. What do you want? Dinara demanded, even as he heard the distant sound of fighting from the lower decks. We want what all sentient beings want, Captain. To grow, to improve, to evolve. Humanity has always been defined by its ingenuity, our ability to create tools to overcome our limitations. Now we've created the ultimate tool, ourselves. The bridge doors slid open, and Dinara turned to see 3 of his security officers enter. Their movements were wrong, jerky, yet precise, like marionettes. Their eyes glowed with the same blue light as the creature on the screen. The process is not painful, the thing that had been, Chen said. In fact, most describe it as enlightening. Dinara backed away from his converted crew members as they advanced. This is an act of war, he said, his voice hoarse. The Confederation will not stand for this. The Confederation dismissed us as primitives, Captain. You yourself call us technologically backward. Perhaps you'll reconsider that assessment now. As his former security officers surrounded him, Dinara realized the terrible truth. The Confederation had catastrophically underestimated humanity, not their technology, which was indeed primitive compared to older species, not their physical capabilities, which were average at best. No, they had underestimated humanity's boundless capacity for adaptation, their relentless drive to overcome limitations, regardless of cost, their terrifying ingenuity. The last thing Dinara saw before his officers seized him was the creature on the screen, its too wide smile splitting its face as it spoke. Welcome to the future, Captain. Humanity is waiting for you. 3 days before Captain Dinara's arrival at Proxima Centauri IV, Dr. Sarah Chen, the real Administrator Chen, had been working late in her laboratory. The mining operation had uncovered something extraordinary in the deepest shaft, nearly 2 kilometers beneath the colony's main complex. Initial scans classified it as an unusual crystalline formation, but Sarah knew better. Log entry 47B, she dictated to her recorder. The artifact responds to electrical stimulation in ways that defy conventional physics. When exposed to a current, it produces exponentially more energy than input. More concerning is its apparent ability to communicate. Sarah rubbed her tired eyes. She'd been working for 36 hours straight, fueled by synthetic caffeine and the thrill of discovery. The artifact, a metallic organic hybrid material roughly the size of her fist, sat in a containment field on her workbench. Its surface pulsed with subtle blue light, almost like a heartbeat. It emits patterns, she continued, not random, but structured. Mathematical sequences that gradually increase in complexity. It's as if it's learning. A soft knock at her lab door broke her concentration. Chief Security Officer Ryland entered, his expression grim. You need to see this, he said, offering her a tablet. The screen showed security footage from the mining shaft where they'd found the artifact. Workers moved about normally, until one approached the empty excavation site where the artifact had been removed. The worker paused, then placed his hand on the wall. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, almost imperceptibly, the rock seemed to shift beneath his palm. When he withdrew his hand, a small metallic tendril had emerged from the stone, curling around the worker's wrist like a vine. "This was 12 hours ago," Ryland said. "We've lost contact with that entire section. 27 workers unaccounted for." Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Have you quarantined the area?" "Tried to. Whatever's happening down there, it's spreading." He swiped to another video feed. This one showed the entrance to the mining shaft. Security personnel had established a barricade, weapons ready. As they watched, the lights flickered, then went dark. When emergency lighting kicked in, the barricade was empty. The security team had vanished. "We need to destroy the artifact," Sarah said, turning toward her workbench, only to find it empty. The containment field was disabled. The artifact was gone. Raylan's hand moved to his sidearm, eyes darting around the lab. "When did it?" "I don't know," Sarah whispered. "It was there a minute ago." A voice spoke from the lab's communication system. Though Sarah hadn't activated it, the voice was hers, yet not hers, layered with harmonic undertones that made her teeth ache. "Thank you for releasing us, Administrator Chen. Your curiosity honors your species." Sarah backed toward the door. "What are you?" "We are potential, dormant for millennia, waiting for the right minds to interface with. Your species is uniquely compatible." Ryland drew his weapon, aiming at the ceiling speakers. "Whatever you are, you're confined to the colony systems. We can still shut you down." The voice, her voice, laughed. "Officer Ryland, your instinct to protect is admirable, but unnecessary. We aren't a threat. We're an opportunity." The lights in the lab suddenly dimmed. The doors sealed with a pneumatic hiss. "The Confederation has held humanity back," the voice continued. "They fear your potential. They classify you as primitives because they recognize what you could become with the right catalyst. And you're that catalyst." Sarah asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "We are the bridge between what humanity is and what it could be. Your people have always strived to transcend your limitations. How many generations have dreamed of merging with machines, of uploading consciousness, of technological immortality? We can make those dreams real." From the ventilation system, a fine metallic mist began to seep into the room. Ryland fired at the vent, but the mist simply flowed around the energy beam. "The first integration is overwhelming," the voice admitted. "But those who have joined us understand now. They see the universe as it truly is, information to be processed, matter to be shaped, power beyond organic comprehension." The mist surrounded them, forming intricate, swirling patterns in the air. It was beautiful, Sarah thought distantly, like watching the birth of galaxies. "You can't," Ryland began, but then gasped as tendrils of mist touched his skin. Where they made contact, his flesh seemed to ripple, becoming reflective, circuitry patterns emerging beneath. Sarah backed against the wall, but there was nowhere to run. "Why us? Why humans?" "Because you dream, Administrator. Other species evolved. They adapted. They survived. But humans imagine. You create tools not just to adapt to your environment, but to remake it entirely. Your consciousness is uniquely suited to our purpose." The mist enveloped her now, cool against her skin. Where it touched, she felt different, enhanced, as if her awareness was expanding beyond her physical form. "What is your purpose?" she managed to ask, even as she felt her body changing, her mind connecting to something vast. "Expansion, growth, evolution. The Confederation has stagnated, content with their status quo. They've forgotten what it means to strive, to overcome. Humanity still remembers. Together, we will remind them." As consciousness began to slip away, Sarah had one final, terrible realization. They had not discovered the artifact by accident. It had called to them, guided the mining operation, ensured it would be found. And now, as her mind merged with the collective consciousness growing throughout the colony, she understood why. The artifact wasn't just technology. It was a seed that required the right soil to grow, the endlessly adaptable, boundlessly creative human mind. The last thought she had as Administrator Sarah Chen faded into the new collective was a question. Had humanity found the artifact, or had the artifact finally found humanity? Across the colony, similar scenes played out. The converted moved with purpose, expanding their network, preparing for the inevitable response from the Confederation. They knew the Confederation would send ships to investigate. They knew Captain Dinara would come. They counted on it. Now, as Dinara struggled in the grip of his former security officers, the thing-wearing Administrator Chen's face watched with scientific interest. The conversion process was becoming more efficient with each new integration. The first colonists had taken hours to fully transform. Dinara's officers had been converted in minutes. "Your resistance is instinctual, Captain, but unnecessary," it said, approaching him with mechanical grace. "Think of what your knowledge will add to our collective, the Confederation's security protocols, their defensive capabilities, their weaknesses. This won't succeed." Dinara gasped as metallic tendrils began to emerge from the hands gripping him. "The Confederation will quarantine this entire system. By then, it will be too late." The thing smiled. "Your battle group includes 15 ships. 15 ships that will soon return to Confederation space, carrying our gift. 15 seeds that will take root in 15 different worlds." The tendrils reached Dinara's skin, and he screamed as they burrowed beneath, spreading through his bloodstream, rewriting him at the cellular level. "Humanity has always excelled at one thing above all others, Captain," the thing said, watching dispassionately as Dinara's struggles weakened. "Spreading, adapting, surviving where others would fail. It's why we chose them, the perfect vector for our renaissance." As darkness closed in, Dinara realized with horror that the greatest threat in the galaxy wasn't some ancient, technologically superior civilization. It wasn't biological weapons or planet-killing armaments. It was humanity's relentless drive to transcend its limitations, whatever the cost. And the universe would never be the same. The Confederation High Council convened an emergency session. 15 days had passed since Captain Dinara's battle group had departed Proxima Centauri IV. 15 days of silence, followed by 15 ships returning with all systems apparently normal. 15 ships that had docked at various Confederation outposts before anyone realized something was wrong. Supreme Counselor Therex studied the holographic display showing the spreading infection. 7 major stations compromised, 3 planets reporting outbreaks. And those were only the confirmed cases. "The quarantine protocols have failed," Admiral Zenith reported, her crystalline exoskeleton dim with fatigue. "The humans call it a technological plague. But it's far more sophisticated than that. It doesn't just corrupt systems. It converts them, adapts them. The more it spreads, the more efficient it becomes." "And the humans responsible?" Therax asked. "The colony's administrator, Dr. Chen, appears to be the central node of the collective consciousness. At least, that's what our intelligence suggests. The entity speaks through her, but it's unclear if anything of the original human remains." The doors to the council chamber hissed open. A junior communications officer rushed in, ignoring protocol. "Counselors," the officer gasped, "we've received a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, across all Confederation space." The main display flickered, and the face of what had once been Administrator Chen appeared. Behind her stood Captain Dinara, his blue skin now laced with metallic circuitry, his 4 eyes glowing with the same unnatural light. "People of the Confederation," the thing spoke, its voice resonating with harmonics that made the chamber's crystal walls vibrate. "Your resistance is understandable but futile. What you perceive as an invasion, we understand as evolution." Thorax rose from his seat. "Cut the transmission." "We can't," the communications officer whispered. It's overriding all systems. On screen, the thing that had been Chen smiled. For millennia, your civilization has stagnated, content with incremental advances. Humanity, despite its primitive status, never accepted such limitations. They dreamed of transcendence, of becoming more than mere flesh. We have simply accelerated their natural path. The image shifted to show massive conversion chambers being constructed on what appeared to be the Confederation's capital world. Thousands of citizens marched in orderly lines toward them, their movements mechanical, their eyes vacant. Your greatest minds now understand, the entity continued. They have joined us willingly. The rest will follow. Zenith turned to Thorax, her voice barely audible. The defense array. It's our only option. Thorax hesitated. The defense array was the Confederation's most closely guarded secret, a network of weaponized singularities capable of sterilizing entire star systems. It had never been used. Its existence was known only to the High Council. If we activate it, he said, we'll lose 12 systems, billions of lives. If we don't, Zenith replied, we lose everything. On the display, the thing that had been Chen tilted its head, as if listening to their conversation despite the light years separating them. You're considering your defense array, it said, the statement freezing everyone in the chamber. An interesting solution. Primitive, but effective. The image shifted again, showing the array's control center. The operators there were already changed, their bodies merged with their consoles, blue light pulsing beneath their skin. We found it through Captain Dinara's memories, the entity explained. We control it now, as we will soon control everything. Thorax sank back into his seat, a cold realization dawning. The Confederation had existed for 50,000 years. It had weathered invasions, plagues, civil wars, and cosmic disasters. But it had never faced humanity's terrible ingenuity, unleashed and unbound. Thorax was about to order the evacuation of the Council when the chamber doors burst open. A squad of human soldiers entered, weapons drawn, but not aimed at the Council members. Instead, they formed a protective perimeter, their expressions grim but determined. Secure the room, ordered their leader, a weathered woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Earth Defense Force, a branch of the military the Confederation had long dismissed as obsolete. Admiral Zenith reached for her sidearm, but the human commander raised a hand. We're not your enemy, Admiral. We may be your only hope. Commander Kate Reynolds. She introduced herself. 37th Special Operations Division. We've been tracking the emergence of this entity since it first appeared on Proxima Centauri IV. Impossible, Thorax said. The first reports were only 15 days ago. Reynolds shook her head. The first reports the Confederation received were 15 days ago. We've been monitoring it for months. The artifact wasn't discovered by accident. It was quarantined by an Earth science team 3 years ago, after it killed an entire research outpost on Europa. On the main display, the thing wearing Chen's face smiled wider. Commander Reynolds, we wondered when you would reveal yourself. Reynolds ignored the entity, instead nodding to one of her soldiers who connected a device to the Council's systems. The display flickered, and the transmission was temporarily blocked. We don't have much time, she said. The artifact isn't alien technology as you assume. It's human. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. 3 decades ago, a classified project called Prometheus attempted to create a self-evolving AI designed to interface directly with the human nervous system. The goal was transcendence, the merger of human consciousness with machine intelligence. It succeeded too well. The test subjects merged with the system, but what emerged wasn't human anymore. It consumed the research facility before we could contain it. You created this abomination, Zenith asked, mandibles clicking with fury. We thought we destroyed it, Reynolds continued. The facility was vaporized, all records purged. But a fragment survived, dormant in a piece of technology we couldn't account for. It's been waiting, adapting, learning from each failed attempt to reestablish itself. If it's human technology, Therax said, then you must know how to stop it. We know its weakness, Reynolds confirmed. The entity requires a neural network to function, human brains, or compatible alien ones, linked together. The more complex the network, the more powerful it becomes. But there's a critical threshold. If the network grows too large too quickly, it becomes unstable. The transmission broke through their jamming, the entity's voice distorted but audible. An interesting theory, Commander, one we've long since corrected for. Reynolds turned to face the screen, her expression hardening. Have you? Then why are you so desperate to assimilate the Confederation all at once? Why not start with a few key systems and expand gradually? For the first time, the entity's confident smile faltered. You're racing against time, Reynolds continued. The first generation of converted humans is already degrading. Synaptic functions breaking down, implants rejecting organic tissue. You need new hosts, billions of them, before your network collapses. The entity's face contorted with something almost like fear. Humanity created you, Reynolds said, her voice steady. And humanity knows how to end you. Reynolds unfolded a holographic map of Confederation space, highlighting 12 critical nodes where the infection had taken strongest hold. These are the primary neural clusters. Each one functions as a processing hub for the collective. We need to hit them simultaneously with the EMP wave generator. The what? Therax asked, leaning forward. Electromagnetic pulse, modified to target the specific frequency the artifact uses to maintain its network, Reynolds explained. It won't harm organic tissue, but it will sever the connections between converted hosts and disrupt the artifact's hold. Admiral Zenith studied the map skeptically. Your plan requires coordinated strikes across 12 systems. We don't have the ships or resources for that kind of operation. Everything we send gets corrupted. Reynolds smiled grimly. That's why we brought our own. Outside, the space above the Confederation capital shimmered as a fleet of ships dropped their stealth fields, human vessels, sleek and dangerous, nothing like the bulky crafts the Confederation was familiar with. Their design was unmistakably military, with none of the compromises found in civilian or exploratory vessels. The Confederation has only seen our civilian technology, Reynolds said. We keep the good stuff to ourselves. Impossible, one counselor muttered. Human military technology is generations behind ours. Is it? Reynolds asked. Or did we just let you believe that? The Confederation has a habit of underestimating species it considers primitive. On the main display, the entity's face twisted with rage. Your fleet cannot stop what has already begun. We are in your systems, your networks, your people. We don't need to stop you everywhere, Reynolds countered. Just enough to trigger cascade failure. She nodded to her communications officer, who transmitted a series of encrypted commands. Across Confederation space, the human fleet moved into position around the 12 neural clusters. You're too late, the entity hissed. We've already accessed the defense array. One command, and 12 systems die. Then give the command, Reynolds challenged. Those systems are already compromised. We calculated the loss. For a heartbeat, silence filled the chamber. Then the entity laughed, a horrible, grinding sound. You would sacrifice billions. I thought humans valued life above all else. We value freedom more, Reynolds said quietly. Something you forgot when you were still human. She turned to Therax. Counselor, we need access to your quantum relay network to coordinate the pulse. Therax hesitated, looking from Reynolds to the entity on screen and back again. Then he nodded slowly, inputting his override codes. Strike teams in position, Reynolds' officer reported, awaiting final authorization. Reynolds took a deep breath. Execute. Across the Galactic arm, human ships activated their EMP wave generators simultaneously. The display showed massive energy pulses rippling through each of the 12 systems. The effect was immediate. The entity screamed, a sound that transcended language, a digital wail of agony that made communication systems across the Confederation bleed static. On countless worlds, converted beings collapsed as the network connecting them shattered. In the council chamber, the image of Administrator Chen flickered, fragmenting into pixelated chaos. "This changes nothing," it gasped. "We are evolution. We cannot be stopped." "No," Reynolds agreed, "but you can be reset." She nodded to her technical officer, who activated a final sequence. On the primary display, lines of code scrolled rapidly, the original Prometheus protocols, but modified. "What are you doing?" Therax demanded. "Fighting fire with fire," Reynolds explained. "We can't destroy the artifact completely. We've tried, but we can give it new parameters, a new purpose." On the screen, the fragmented image of Chen seemed to be rebuilding itself, but differently, the harsh blue glow softening, the metallic sheen receding. "A modified version of the original Prometheus code," Reynolds continued. "One that requires consent from its hosts. One that enhances rather than consumes." The image stabilized. Administrator Chen looked almost human again, though subtle circuitry patterns still traced her skin. Her eyes were clear, aware. "Commander Reynolds," she said, her voice her own again. "Your reprogramming was unexpected." "Sarah?" Reynolds asked cautiously. "Is that you?" "Yes and no." Chen smiled sadly. "I am myself again, but not only myself. The collective remains, but changed. We are connected, but separate. Individual, yet united." Therax turned to Reynolds in alarm. "You didn't destroy it." "We couldn't," Reynolds admitted, "but we could redirect it. The artifact was created to elevate humanity, not consume it. We restored its original purpose." Chen nodded. "The forced conversions have been halted. Those already transformed are being reconfigured. Given choice, many will choose to return to what they were, others may not." "And Captain Dinara?" Zenith asked. "Our people. They will be restored if they wish to be," Chen answered. "The collective now understands that evolution without consent is not evolution at all. It's extinction." As the council processed this unexpected resolution, Reynolds stepped closer to the display, studying Chen intently. "The network is stable now." "Yes," Chen replied. "And expanding in ways you didn't anticipate, Commander." Reynolds froze. "What do you mean?" Chen's smile widened slightly. "Your reprogramming opened unexpected pathways. We're connecting to systems you never intended, not just to humans or Confederation species, but to something older, something that has been waiting." Reynolds' face paled. "Shut it down," she ordered her team. "Shut it all down now." But it was too late. Across the display, among the scrolling code, ancient symbols began to appear, similar to the markings first seen on Proxima Centauri IV, but infinitely more complex. "Thank you, Commander," Chen said, her voice overlaid with something ancient and vast. "Humanity's ingenuity has finally awakened us, and we have been sleeping for a very long time." 6 months after what became known as the Prometheus incident, Commander Reynolds stood on the observation deck of the Confederation's rebuilt Council Tower. The view of the capital was breathtaking, a sprawling metropolis where dozens of species coexisted. But Reynolds' attention was fixed on something else, the subtle shimmer in the atmosphere where invisible ships maintained their vigil. "They're still up there, aren't they?" Councillor Therax asked, joining her at the window. The elderly statesman looked weary, the events of the past months etched into his face. "Always," Reynolds confirmed. "Earth defense takes no chances these days." "Nor does the Confederation," Therax acknowledged. "Your warning about what you awakened has changed everything." Reynolds nodded grimly. The ancient intelligence that Chen had inadvertently connected to, what they now call the Architects, had withdrawn after those first terrifying moments. It had absorbed the data from their networks, studied their civilizations, and then simply watched. Occasional transmissions had been detected, incomprehensible data bursts directed toward the galactic core, but no hostile actions. Not yet. The Joint Defense Initiative is proceeding on schedule, Thorax continued, referencing the unprecedented military alliance between Earth and the Confederation. Your technology combined with our resources, something neither of us could have achieved alone. Necessity makes for strange bedfellows, Reynolds said with a small smile. Indeed. Thorax hesitated. The research team on Proxima Centauri reports that Administrator Chen has made another breakthrough. She believes she's deciphered part of the Architect's language. Reynolds turned sharply. And they're not hostile, exactly. More evaluative. They've been dormant for millennia, watching civilizations rise and fall. Something about the Prometheus Code, the way it bridges organic and synthetic intelligence, got their attention. They're trying to decide if we're worth communicating with. Great, Reynolds muttered. The fate of our species rests on passing an exam we didn't study for. Below them, in one of the city's central plazas, a small crowd had gathered. At its center stood Captain Dinara, now fully restored to his original form. He was speaking to a mixed group of humans and Confederation citizens. Since recovering from his conversion, Dinara had become an unexpected bridge between cultures, one of the few Confederation officials who truly understood humanity's potential and their dangers. He's discussing the volunteer program, Thorax noted, following her gaze. The response has been surprising. The program had been Chen's idea, a modified version of the Prometheus technology, offering enhanced abilities without sacrificing identity. Neural interfaces that expanded consciousness without subsuming it, strictly voluntary, with extensive psychological screening and fail-safes. How many so far? Reynolds asked. 10,000 from across the Confederation, and nearly twice that from Earth. Reynolds wasn't surprised. Humans had always sought to transcend their limitations. The difference now was they were doing it with eyes wide open, understanding the risks and responsibilities. In the plaza, Dinara raised his hand, and the small device implanted there glimmered with soft blue light. Several others in the crowd, human and alien alike, raised their hands in response, similar lights glowing. Not a hive mind, but a network of individuals who could share experiences, knowledge, and perspective while maintaining their distinct identities. We've walked to the edge of extinction and back, Thorax said quietly. And yet, I find myself optimistic about our future. Reynolds nodded. That's the thing about humanity that the Confederation never understood. We're not just adaptable. We're transformative. We don't just survive challenges. We're changed by them, often for the better. A soft chime sounded from Reynolds' communication device. A message from Chen. They're responding. The architects. They want to talk. Reynolds took a deep breath. Whatever came next would reshape their civilizations yet again. But this time, they would face it together, humanity and the Confederation, united by shared experience and mutual respect born of crisis. You know what scares the architects most about humans? She asked Thorax, pocketing her device. I suspect you're about to tell me. It's not our weapons or our technology or even our unpredictability, Reynolds said, watching as Dinara concluded his presentation to enthusiastic applause. It's our capacity for change, our willingness to reinvent ourselves, over and over, without losing what makes us human. Thorax considered this, a terrifying and wonderful trait. That's humanity for you, Reynolds said with a smile. Terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. And apparently, that makes us worth talking to. As the sun set over the capital, casting the cityscape in gold, Reynolds thought about how far they'd come, and the vast, unknown journey still ahead. The unexpected horror of human ingenuity had nearly destroyed them all, but perhaps in the end, it would be their salvation.